Why? Well, I'm Lewis. Why are we even doing this?
Firstly, Naomi's an accomplished driver, racing driver, in fact. I should have said that first.
For those who don't know, porpoising is what Digby does when he's bored with Missionary.
Hey, hello all you wonderful people, and welcome back to another episode of Idiots of F1. I want to say the world's newest unofficial F1 podcast, but to be honest, I've no idea how many other fools like us who think they can get away with doing a podcast have since jumped on the wagon and pumped something out in the last few months. That said, it really doesn't, well, actually shouldn't matter to you at all, because this is the F1 podcast you've been looking for. I'm obviously using my Obi-Wan Force hand wave as I say
These
that.
aren't the droids.
Hey, as always, I'm your host, Oli, and sitting with me, in which the F1 Force is strong within both of them, are your resident Jedis of F1, Digz and Ev. Digz, from the other side of the pond, I'm assuming somewhat buried in the rolling green hills of the United Kingdom. How are you, mate, and where are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me over there?
Can you hear me?
I'm in East London in a place called Abbey Wood. It's okay. It's not the nicest.
Well, let's not offend everyone just yet.
It's good to be.
The worst Beatles album.
Yeah, it's like the B-side.
Can you get a photo of you just walking across any road in Abbey Wood or wherever you are?
Like stopping traffic.
It's been fun to be on this side, be able to watch the race at a half decent time.
Yeah, lucky you. You.
It's the sun comes up mighty early over here.
Oh yeah, and your skin doesn't like more hours of sun. Yeah. Hey, quick one. Did you we won't dive too deeply into your tour stories, but how'd you survive the scummy area of Ascot races? I think for those that tuned in last week, we've appreciated that.
It was very hot, and it's funny when you're at the races in England, if the sun's out, everyone sits in the shade around the area, like the big field area. No one wants to sit in the sun.
Were there any Royals there?
Kate and William were there, I think.
Oh, very good. The ones that most people don't give a shit about. Hey, Ev, you're more closer within the leafy suburbs of Sydney. Is it safe to assume you're well and excited to be here today, or is that too much of an ask, mate? Yep, cool. As always, there it is.
Yeah, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Very good. Well, before we get stuck in today's discussion, in a bid to spark you up a bit, we had some lovely people get in touch since we last caught up.
Yeah.
I thought I'd actually do a bit of the indulgent thing here and read out some of the fan feedback. You know, continue to support the positive culture of this circus
Is
act.
one of them Digby R, like at Digby R, and the other one was D Robinson?
How many Instagram profiles have you opened up in the last 3 months?
I've got to watch those TikToks again and again and again just to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
First up is via Craig, who actually got in touch on the weekend. Digz, you're going to love this,
Hi,
mate.
Craig.
Craig said...
That's not a girl.
Well, I'm not going there. Craig said, love your podcast. Favourite and most real dissection of the F1. Keep up the good work, guys. Oh, and fuck Stroll and Latifi. So I'm not sure if Craig is anti-Canada or anti-pay drivers or anti...
Wait, was that you, though? Are you adding that on yourself? Like,
No.
What did Craig say?
That's what I mean. That's what Craig said. And then he actually finished
good on
up
you, Craig.
with... Hope the pod goes off, as it's way better than that ass-kicking shit from the more official podcasts. A good old dose of Aussie fresh air. Yeah, what did I say?
Ass-kicking.
Oh, ass-kicking.
But I'll take that as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah.
You just wait, Craig. The first dollar we earn from like a corporate
we will
sponsor,
be licking
the first,
ass.
Like the first episode that's brought to you by Audible, we are going to be so respectful and cash in at the first moment.
Ass-kicking, not ass-kissing. That's Idiots of F1.
There you go. Yeah, I minced my words there.
We do nothing but kiss ass here.
But Digz, that would fill you with some validation. It's lovely to get little nods like that, particularly that actually
always
attribute us and associate us to kind of where we wanted to set ourselves. You know, being unofficial provides us with a bit of a license to have a crack at anyone. It does probably mean that we're never going to get a driver on our show, at least not a current driver.
Yeah.
But hey, you know...
That's what I'm scared if I ever meet a driver and someone goes, you should listen to their podcast. We're like, don't listen to it.
Especially... Yeah. While you're here, meet Danny Ricciardo. Oh, hey, man, I heard you do a podcast. No, don't, Danny. Do yourself a favour. Don't go near it.
Everything I say, I'm just joking. It's just a joke.
That's a different red-headed 6-foot guitar player.
Yeah. Another idiot. But hey, look, you know, we're fairly new to the sport, and as we've mentioned time and time again, we're keen to unpack as much of it as possible and provide some really raw thoughts and opinions without inflating it or sugarcoating it. And if that means someone gets offended because they don't like what we say, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. Both you guys have copped a fair bit online as to being biased towards a particular team. But let's be honest, we have a crack at anyone and any team if it's justified.
Let me say, when we like, I can only speak for myself, but when I'm having a go at these drivers...
That'd be a first, Digz.
I don't hate these guys. We don't actually have any genuine hate towards any of the drivers.
We love this sport.
I think we're just here to keep them...
on TV.
We're here to keep them real. They're celebrities. They're famous drivers. We like to just pull them back down to earth and remind them...
Absolutely.
Sometimes you got to be treated like a human
But Digz,
being.
if I come along and watch you play a game of rugby and you have a shit game, I'm going to tell you, mate, you had a shit game. Like, it's not like we're taking... We just, if you drive shit and you drive shit consistently and happen to pay your way into the sport, you're probably going to get a few comments aimed at you.
Look, we just want you to perform. So if you're not performing, we don't want to hear some bullshit excuses or,
You don't drive fast enough to outrun that target on your back.
Yeah.
That's why poor old Lewis was holding his back so much last week because he's copped 3 or 4 years of Digby just going after him.
8 years of carrying Mercedes, that was.
I like somebody's comment was he hurt his back from carrying Formula One for the past 10 years.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I think it's a good one.
Oh, except when Rosberg was there.
Yeah, well, yes, everyone tends to, except for Nico, conveniently forgets that. Hey, right, another one from Twitter, from Lil, Scottish flag, MV33, Netherlands flag. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that Lil, which I'm assuming is also Lily, is a Max fan here. But Lil got in touch and said...
They're Scottish.
I listened to your podcast whilst building a desk earlier today. Liked it a lot. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Hell yeah.
I mean, guys, look, if you needed any more proof to my previous point, full circling this, we've been called out for being Red Bull or Max haters when calling out or questioning certain things, but Lil is the perfect example that you can enjoy something without being offended and crying outrage.
Please get in touch and let us know what kind of table that was. Desk?
Yeah.
What are we talking, like a standing desk? Those are pretty trendy.
Yeah, they're on trend, aren't they? In fact, I probably need to get one of those while doing this show. But
Lewis probably has one of them.
Yeah. If someone that's come under a fair bit of heat from the Red Bull glitterati, does that message from Lil or Lily fill you a bit of warmth, mate? Quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel sorry for Lil.
Why?
Because obviously they haven't heard they haven't heard enough of our podcast yet to have an informed opinion.
Maybe she'll fall in love with you more and more, mate. You are the sexiest voice of the F1.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I can't
stay mad at you, Ev.
Yeah, no one can stay mad at you, Ev. Hey, I reckon that's enough for today.
Honey.
But keep the love coming, team. Whilst the listener numbers gives us a pretty good indication to the inroads we're making with the pod, the reality is it's actually quite a bit of work. And amongst actual jobs, and, well, if you're Digz touring other countries...
Well, you say that.
We say that. Maybe not you, Ev. Unemployment joke. But look, honestly, like the feedback provides just a great injection of motivation and excitement. Like, so for instance... Digz flicked me one of those a couple of days ago, and I think your message was something along the lines of, how good is this feedback? Like, that feedback is genuinely really motivating for us, and it does kind of help fill the gaps.
Most of the comments we get on socials are negative when I put something controversial out there. It is really refreshing to get someone go, I actually enjoy what you have to say.
Just balance the ledger a bit.
We really love that, guys.
Yeah. Like, you can't praise us with compliments enough, so don't stop. Also, the only dickhead out there that gave us less than 5 stars, if you're listening still, can you change that to 5, please? Because you're killing my OCD.
What did he give us?
But it feels more realistic. There's no way we could be a perfect 5-star, but 4.9, maybe we're just brilliant enough.
Why? There's no reason why we can't be perfect 10s in life and then perfect 5s on the old podcast rating.
Yeah,
Don't pull yourself down there, Digz. Let Ev do it. All right, well, let me get this shit back on course. As always, we've got a bit to cover off today as we dissect all things Canadian GP and pound through all things on and off track surrounding the weekend's events. So whilst also continuing to do you a solid with this week's Haas, you've been paying attention, our very own Idiots Quiz Championship, also What's Verstappening, our very own quickfire round where we cover off anything else in the world of F1 that's happened outside of the race weekend. And excitingly, gents, the return of Twat of the Week for the first time in some time. So which I think is a beauty this week, boys, and one that's no doubt going to offend a fair amount of old school traditionalists whose gender starts with an M and ends in an E.
Mummin?
With our ever comprehensive intro and tee up, shall we send it, boys, and rip in?
Let's do it. Start the car.
Can I see your hands, by the way? Can you just lift your hands for me? Just for anybody that's worried, I'm not worried about Ev having a wank whilst we're doing this. I'm worried he might be doing another Wordle or something.
It's only in the mornings.
Only in the mornings?
Only in the mornings.
For what? For the Wordle or the wank?
Today it was gloat. Spoiler alert, it was gloat.
So the weekend just gone saw the F1 and its marching band drop into Canada for round 9 of the 2022 championship. And having shaken off my negativity that was aimed at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in the preceding week, the weekend tended to bounce back for a really great spread of entertainment and excitement. From mixed weather seasons through practice that saw rain and sun to an absolute downpour that resulted in qualifying mostly being raced in a fucking river. All wet roads to Rome pointed to an enticing, exciting race day with a very different looking grid thanks to the unpredictability and impact of Mother Nature. And in what resulted in an intriguing and, well, fairly exciting race, before we do get stuck into the top 10 and take you on the journey of race day, I was thinking we may start today's pod with what might be the biggest topic of the last few days, well, actually week, really, that of bouncing, porpoising, rocking the Casper, whatever you want to call it. For those unaware, and bear with us here as we trip over ourselves in an attempt to get you up to speed with what might well be a really important moment in time when looking back on this year's championship.
Yeah.
So following the outcomes of Baku GP and the impact of the cars in their bouncing, accompanied by the shouts and demands of a very vocal group of drivers and some teams, of which Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton were very much leading the pack with pitchforks and fire sticks, the FIA, the governing body of the sport, came out on the eve of the Canadian Grand Prix following conversations with doctors about how the drivers are being impacted by the cars bottoming out at a high speed and issued what is called a Technical Directive, quoted on their website as necessary due to the interests of safety. Ev, before we open up this conversation up, can you explain to us what is a Technical Directive?
So a Technical Directive is like an amendment to the rules or like the Constitution.
Yep.
If they were to change the rules, it would have to go to committee, which the teams would never agree on. So, for example, they want to change the rules with the cost cap, and the teams aren't agreeing on that. Whereas and
they have to have they all have to agree, do they? All 10?
No,
it's not like
you
majority
need,
rules?
I think it's 8 out of 10.
Yeah, okay.
So they can make this Technical Directive to expand or to better articulate the current set of rules. So it wasn't in there from the beginning, and now they're just expanding what it means to have ride height. And,
okay,
and,
all right. So
for those who don't know, porpoising is what Digby does when he's bored with Missionary.
Okay, so just unpacking again for my own understanding, because I have struggled with the I guess a lot of the technical jargon that's flying around.
Sure.
So a technical directive is not a change of rules; it's an elaboration of rules that currently exist.
Yes.
Okay, so something in the rules is already attributed to the likes of is it suspension or bouncing or is this to do like with the floors, or this is to do with the ride height?
So they'll have limits to how much suspension they can run, like the distance that they can have. And the problem with this is that the FIA have created this ground effect car that needs to be run very low to the ground. And they didn't really take into consideration themselves what this would happen at the back end, which is that you'd have these real world impacts of bouncing or porpoising and things like that. The FIA, Ross Brawn, who was a genius designer from Brawn F1 team that won the championship with
Jensen.
So he's a real genius, and he helped design this. He was the lead designer for the FIA. And he said before the season, because they tried ground effect in the 70s and it didn't work. This porpoising came about in the 70s. So people are like, well, what's going to happen if this comes back again? He said, I think people are going to be smart enough to figure it out. Anyway, it turns out 90% of the teams aren't smart enough to figure it out because it's not baked into their design. And so that's part of the reason why people are getting upset, because you've gone into this season thinking that, oh, we'll be okay, and then, well, actually, no, nobody's okay except really Red Bull.
Well, we'll get onto some of the team reactions in a minute, but just going back to the ground effect was the philosophy of design given for these new regulations so that the cars could drive closer, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's all about just aerodynamic. Okay, all right. So then coming back to the technical directive that was given this week, you've alluded to a little bit there, but very quickly, somewhat avoiding the tech jargon or the FIA's description of what this technical directive is, because actually I have to say over the weekend when it was released, I kind of went to my usual sources of information and other podcasts to really understand what it was, because I couldn't. Yeah. And all they did was read out the fucking press release from the FIA, and they didn't explain anything in it. Yeah. So I was like, I don't. This means nothing to me, because it was like, like limits to new benchmarks and all sorts of shit about like how much oscillations and BPMs and whatever. So what is it? What does it mean?
They haven't figured it out yet. It should be said. There hasn't been an outcome. This got pushed back to Silverstone in a couple of weeks.
Oh, right.
So it was announced on Friday at the team meeting, to which there was, by all accounts, an incredibly heated argument between Christian Horner and Toto. They both have, if you were to be cynical, you'd say they both have political reasons for being for and against.
Can I just jump in on that? Like, do you reckon that all the other team principals sit in every single meeting and just wait for Toto and Christian to go at each other? It feels like everybody's just constantly in audience to those two.
Or do they not go at each other? Do they sit and have really polite conversations? But when they're out to the press, it's there.
Come on, we've got to dial it up for Drive to Survive.
Come on, guys. Look, remember, we're not in the same team here. Let's go out. Mercedes, I'll be Red Bull.
Where Toto blew up, apparently, and I think it was Christian who pointed out that the Drive to Survive cameras were actually there. And so he was insinuating that he's only putting on a show to like... Yeah. So, which may or may not be true. You never know. He's a savvy guy. They're all savvy.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why they're there.
So why announce a technical directive but then not implement it? And is that how it usually works? Like the FIA will announce a technical directive and then it's on...
this doesn't really happen very often. It depends on how it's implemented. So they came about with this idea that if your car is bouncing by a certain amount...
Which is to be determined what that amount should be, right?
To be determined, they don't know. But it's typically like... So at Baku, Mercedes were doing like 10 or 11 G worth of bouncing, which is just unacceptable. There's no helmet that can stop that. And so they'll probably say, like, if you're outside of like 6 or 7 G... then we'll force you to raise your ride height. So in the FIA's defense, and what they've done, which is quite clever, is that the cynics are saying, well, Mercedes have tried to be clever. And they wanted... The
Digby's out there.
They wanted everybody... They went to the FIA as if to say, hey guys, let's why don't we... It's unsafe. We should all raise our ride heights, fellas. Like, why don't you make everybody, and then we're all safe?
Yeah. Didn't you see Max get out of the car, Max? Remember, hold your back.
So the FIA were like, an example of a rare example of wisdom on their part, say, well, no, it's only if each individual team.
Okay.
If you do it, then you're fucked. Like, and so that's just quite good. And so, which leads to perhaps that's why Toto was a bit frustrated, to put it mildly, because he kind of dug his own grave there. Because it's only ever going to even more advantage Red Bull if Ferrari have to abide by that.
No, I was happy with that. That's how the FIA did it, because ultimately that's kind of what we were saying. We were saying, well, look, if you can't, that's not our problem that your car can't go that fast.
It's a bit of
raise your ride height.
There's actual common sense in this.
Yeah.
If no one else, if everyone was having that problem, then yes, it would be a complete issue for everyone. But Red Bull are fine. I mean, if Ferrari have improved theirs immensely throughout the year.
I made a note here to say that have Mercedes just shot themselves in the foot, but I want to loop back to that particular comment in a second, because I've got a couple of questions for Digz. But just rounding out this technical directive. So, Eva, you saying by Silverstone, the definitives of what this directive will be known and therefore implemented? Is that the plan?
So it got introduced on Friday at the first. They have a Friday meeting for all the team managers or the team leaders.
Yep.
They very quickly realized the directive was like, okay, we'll get together and we'll sort this out on Friday. They didn't sort it out. They don't know what metric to use. I don't know why, because they get live
Yep.
telemetry from the accelerometers in their earplugs. So I don't know why you can't just say if it's outside of X amount of G or the frequency of that oscillation.
Yeah, okay.
Like, why can't you just go by that?
Yeah. There was something like BPM or something.
I don't know.
Maybe they're worried that it's going to separate the pack too much if they do it at a certain number, and now they have to review it again.
Yeah.
I got one more dumb question for you, Ev.
Sure.
Why would the FIA bring it up in that meeting if they don't know? Like, so you saying they were hoping to kind of like crowdsource the answer to this? Or
Yes,
like,
yes.
Why aren't the FIA going to them, right, this is the measurement, this is the limit. If you cross that over, you are forced to ride your height to X. Why hasn't that happened?
I suspect that they wanted to read the room, because you're bringing in a something nearly halfway through the season that's kind of going to affect. It could affect teams quite badly, and so I think they wanted to be quite cautious. But then they've only shown themselves to kind of not know what they want.
Well, I guess it comes down to very much like if once they determine what the measure is, they could set that measure to really low, that even though Mercedes has the worst bouncing, any bouncing could be penalised,
I doubt
right?
that.
That's the risk, right?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
Even Sergio Perez came out and said that his bouncing, he said at Baku, at the end of the back straight, he was losing vision when he came to the first corner.
Vision,
so it was like
vision.
he was just breaking out of muscle memory, because you know in your head like kind of where you're up to, but like that's so unacceptable. So
yeah. All right. Well, look, we'll keep moving, but I can't remember the comment verbatim, but someone had more recently summed it up quite well by suggesting that the drivers need to focus on the difficulties and challenge of driving a car at 300 kilometers an hour, rather than being distracted and losing focus due to either pain or severe bouncing that adds a wealth of complication. Or to what you were just saying there, Ev, like if you fucking got blurred vision, and understandably, that could very easily result in missing a corner and landing headfirst into a cement wall.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're all about safety.
Diggs, a question for you. And you started to allude it in last week's pods when we first raised this as the case, and that perhaps Hamilton and Mercedes were really starting to ham this up a bit, and in a bid to what seemed to be from a distance to try and lobby the FIA to act. And we've touched on it a little bit there, but I actually happen to think your Red Bull mates, particularly that of Horner, have a very similar point of view. But Is this an FIA issue or is it a team issue to resolve? And building off what you said last week, a need to accept the reality that, I guess almost as a duty of care as an employee, they need to forego performance for that of the comfort and safety of their drivers.
Obviously, you want your car to go as fast as possible, but in doing so, if it means your car is bouncing at such an unbelievable amount that your driver can't see, is having back problems, or he is what Lewis has referred to as a micro concussion, if that is indeed what is happening, it is your job to fix the car. If that means your car has to go slower, so be it. Maybe Williams isn't sitting at the back of the pack because they want to be at the back of the pack. Perhaps they are
safer.
Creating their car in a safe way that slows them down. I'm sure it's not just that, but you know what I mean? Mercedes are probably just so used to having such a great car, and I can imagine how frustrating it is for them not to be able to solve this issue. Then they think they've solved the issue, and they get onto a bumpy track, and it's even worse.
Well, they're supposed to be the best of the best for the last 8 years, so there'd be a lot of ego involved in not wanting to accept that, right?
And you would want the FIA, and as Christian pointed out, if it's them, do what you can. Make it look as bad as possible. I haven't been saying it's not bad. I think if it's in their interest to make it look as worse as possible.
Yes.
Throw out these terms that, I did a bit of research on micro concussions. There's no
because that's been dragged through the media, hasn't it?
It's going to be one of those words that people start throwing
now.
around, and unfortunately, there's no solid results on the research on microconcussions. It's very possible that they are as problematic as, a mild concussion, but it doesn't actually show you any physical results, so you don't actually have any of the physical symptoms of a concussion, but it's still it happens a lot if you're heading a soccer ball.
Short term. Short term. No one knows long term.
Yeah, if you hit a soccer ball over and over, that's considered a
Well, they're talking about getting rid of that in football.
Yeah, but so they don't know if it is actually causing a problem. So to start throwing around that word and going, I'm having micro concussions, we've got to stop this. It's like, well, okay, maybe, but it's that's like saying, hey, FIFA, everyone has to stop heading the ball right now. They don't know, and I think it's better to err to the side of caution.
Well, hold on, can we just stop on that? Ev, is that a joke? Are you joking?
No. It's been this has been bubbling along for a few years now. The thought of getting rid of heading in football.
Wow.
Because if you head the ball however many times in training, if you have a professional career from like 16 or 15 even till 35 or 40 if you're playing the lower leagues, and you're just heading the ball like 100 times a day for 30 years of your life or something. We're starting to see old pros now come with, like you have with NFL players,
wrestlers
that have dementia and things like that are becoming abundant because of heading the football. If you get rid of that, all of a sudden you don't need that skill set. So now tall players you don't need to have tall defenders, for example. It'd just be everybody be skinny and all wingers, essentially.
Yeah, right.
Well,
which would be interesting in and of itself.
I feel like the answer to that initially would be just reduce the amount of headers. So like in wrestling, right, they used to think you had an unlimited amount of times your body could hit the mat in your life.
Of pile drivers.
But you only have a and I'm just talking throwing your back onto the mat. You have a finite amount of times you can do that in your life before your body just stops. So now they'll have to reduce the amount of times they're allowed to run through any moves. They just do it. But you see it with wrestlers all the time from the 90s, especially because they used to do head chair shots all the time because it was like the aggressive,
like slapping someone with a chair
weapon era. And so many wrestlers ended up with CTE. And it took them a while to figure it out because it takes 10 years. It takes 10 years to even see the results of CTE. So you won't know. So they have to stop it now. So Lewis brings up a good point, and they should be worried about that. However, now I feel like the media is going to start throwing that word around like they know what it is.
But are we in the age where you just have to be cautious regardless?
Yeah, my argument wasn't that. I'm sure he might be experiencing that. It was, if you are genuinely experiencing that, get out. Stop the car, get out. Fix the car, and you shouldn't even be worried about coming second or third. You should be worried about whether you can remember things in 10 years.
Yeah, good point, Digz.
I thought your argument put micro concussions into air quotes. Micro concussion.
Well, I'll be honest, mate. If you go,
that's what it felt like.
It is still a bit up in the air what micro concussions are. Like they are a thing, but they're not really so sure that they even have an impact just yet. They're assuming they do because it's safer to assume that they do, but they have nothing to show necessarily that is like. It is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're absolutely right, and it is a really, really valid point. It's fascinating to watch this all unfold because I've never experienced this, like this sort of. It feels like lobbying at the same time as it's a genuine safety issue. So FIA have a role to play, which is why I was really keen to understand from your perspective, Ev. But Digz, you're quite right, and you're quite right last week in calling out just what felt like a bit of overacting. You got the sense they were really lobbying for the FIA to step in here and say, everybody lift your ride height.
Christian say something this week about how quickly Merck seemed to solve the issue, like almost like
now that's a very good point.
Almost like they'd been given the heads up, hey Toto, look, we are going to change this for you, mate.
Else. That was something else.
Was that something else?
But wasn't that, didn't they put a second stop in or something like that, Ev, to stabilise the board?
There's a little piece of like metal wire that it's called a stay, and it connects the body to the floor to stop the floor from flapping. And so somehow Mercedes, it was said that FIA said, okay, in the meantime you can affix a second stay, which previously wasn't allowed. And then, like the very next morning, Mercedes already had one created and installed on their car, and everybody else is saying that it's not possible to do that in the time that you had. And I think Mercedes said that they flew somebody over and 3D printed it and stuff like that.
I'll tell you what,
which isn't
it's not impossible.
It's not unheard of, and it's not impossible. Although I think if you realistically, Mercedes would be very much hand in glove with the FIA just because of how significant they are as a brand. Same with Ferrari, probably less so as Red Bull because Red Bull brings less to Formula One than.
Well, not from a fan perspective though. I think they've got the second biggest fan base. Yeah,
but they don't have any collateral, do they? They've got...
Yeah. Okay, all right, very good. Well, look, I think we've probably covered off a lot there. The things I was really keen to understand is like what's a tech directive? What does it mean moving forward? Has Mercedes, did they manipulate this to some extent, and has it since ultimately shot them in the foot? It's a really fascinating, complicated topic.
Really fun.
But
It's really makes the season
it is,
interesting.
and it could genuinely change everything.
How the
right?
sausage gets made in Formula One.
Yeah, and it is very complicated as an individual that's not really ingrained in it, but then wants to talk about it, and I guess that's why I'm lucky to have you guys to help us work through that. But
I think it really just brings out the characters really well in all these race drivers and team managers as well. It seems to just be bringing out the best and the worst of them all, and I love all that.
Well, it's really interesting.
Gotta love a
and
villain.
I'll tell you what, Drive to Survive will be loving it in trying to extend their narrative of the Horner versus Toto battle, because this is the perfect thing. Actually, there was a wonderful comment that it was Crofty in the broadcast over the weekend. He was interviewing Christian Horner, and they were talking about this tech directive. And Horner was quite rightly saying, well, just because they haven't been able to get on top of it, why should it impact everyone else? Yeah. And then Crofty challenged him on the cost cap, right?
Yeah.
And said something along the lines of like, well, it's not impacting other teams, Christian, so why should it change just for you? And he goes, well, that's completely different. That's a force majeure, It's like...
It's completely different because it's Red Bull, but I think that, again, proves Christian's point. He's thinking like a Mercedes, like Mercedes are thinking like Christian, so he understands why they're doing it.
It's just amazing when, and look, we do it all ourselves all the time, but it's amazing when the narrative doesn't suit a particular argument that you get the opposing view in what is principally exactly the same situation. All right, anyways, look.
Move on.
Let's look back in time by a few days and get to the weekend's race results. So starting at the top, after what felt like an almost flawless weekend, and particularly clinical with barely a foot put wrong, world champion and current Drivers' Championship leader Max Verstappen grabbed his 6th win of the year and Red Bull's 6th win in a row, as he again continued to establish his credentials and intentions to go back-to-back. Or back-to-back with an asterisk, perhaps. Calm down, everyone. I'm just riling you up. But putting aside what we don't know about how the FIA's involvement moving forward may or may not impact the season, Digz, Ev, at this moment in time, approximately 50 points ahead of Charles Leclerc, it seems hard to see anyone else winning the Drivers' Championship this year. Is that fair?
Still feels early to me. Like, I think it's starting to get there, but just because of the changes we've seen in the last 4
and
races. How quickly things can turn around, and he's not out of reach yet. Like Mercedes did quite well this week,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I can't wait to get your perspective on them.
Has Mercedes had a DNF or anything? Have they had an issue? Right, they haven't had one issue. Whereas Red Bull, rather concerningly, had the transmission of Sergio Perez blow up.
Yeah.
That's kind of just bad luck. That it's going to happen to Max if they don't change his, presumably.
Yeah, maybe he's just having a run of luck with no issues. Maybe the next few weeks we'll see lots of issues.
But he's having a run, right?
He's having a brilliant.
He is having a run.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. He's going to be hard.
And he deserves it as well.
Charles has his car sorted out. Charles is his main competition at the moment, and Ferrari are just doing all they can to keep him from winning.
Well, speaking of competition for Max, and turning our attention more broadly to the Constructors' Championship, while on the topic of Red Bull, who also continued to lead the team tally, Max's teammate, however, had a horrible weekend. Firstly, because of crashing during qualifying, which then saw him start the race some way towards the back of the grid. I think it was about 13th or something. He then had another reliability issue that Ev's just touched on that saw his car need to retire from the race less than halfway through. So whilst he still sits second in the Drivers' Championship after collecting no points, 2 weeks can be a long time in this sport. So if we jump back in time, just a couple of weeks, the F1 media world was alight, following Sergio's win in Monaco, claiming immediately that he was world champion material, that Max has a genuine competitor, that he could be the number one at the end of the year. And whilst not discrediting the reality of how good that man is as a driver, and you can go back through our catalogue, we talk about how impressive he's been, or how much we'd love to see him win, I feel like we saw again, similar to the likes of, say, Sainz for Ferrari, that when the moment is there, that moment to be a champion driver, the likes of these guys show that they don't quite have the final 1% that splits them from the likes of Max and Lewis, and perhaps Charles to an extent, albeit granted we did call him out back, I think it was in Italy, when he fucked up for making mistakes. But acknowledging that it was a different story in parts of last year, particularly for Max, You just don't see Max or Lewis making these kinds of mistakes, even in the wet. So putting aside the DNF of the race, which is clearly not Sergio's fault, Digz crashing like he did in Q2 post Azerbaijan outing that saw Max show him up again. Can we move past the idea of Sergio being championship material, or am I being too harsh again?
I don't look. I was one of the ones that say, "Wow, he's great. He's competition." I got a lot of feedback on that online about everyone's quickly forgetting about Max. It's like, no, I'm not forgetting about Max, but I don't think Sergio has demonstrated any kind of inadequacy just yet. I know he's had that mistake, but I think you need to see those drivers make several mistakes before you can go, well, they just can't handle the pressure.
Well, speaking of wannabe champions, coming in second in what may be regarded as his best driver of the year was Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. And albeit he never seemed to look to be capable of actually passing Max, the reality is that for something like the last 5 or 10 laps of that race, Sainz was right on Max's ass, and I think many of us were just waiting for him to inevitably overtake him and grab his maiden F1 win. In thereabouts the same amount of laps, he had access to DRS at every straight, but he just couldn't get him. My understanding since the conclusion of the race is that apparently the Ferrari was the quicker race car on the weekend, but as I said, Sainz couldn't get him. Digz, were you as surprised as I was to witness Carlos stuck behind Max that entire time?
That's a no from me. I would love to hear Ev's comments on this, but all I could think of was Monza when he couldn't pass Gasly a few years back, and at no point, at no point did I think Sainz was really going to get him. I thought if he doesn't get him in the first couple, no chance.
Before I ask Ev of technically was there a reason why, but just a quick one for you, Digz, just to rile up the Ferrari fans. Would Charles got him?
Yeah, Charles would have got him. I think Charles would have got him. But I'd love to hear Ev's take. But Carlos just didn't feel like he had that 1% in him to get over the line.
Obviously, I've been the first to call him out in previous episodes, but I did actually I thought it'd be just for act of kindness, worth highlighting that aside from one race, when you don't include those that he's actually DNF'd in, he's actually finished on the podium for every other race. I think he's got about 5. So, pretty good, but...
Never won, though.
To your point, Digz, pretty good for a number 2 driver, not a championship
Look,
contender.
I think he's a good driver. I think he's a solid driver, but he just showed me again, like he showed me in Monza, he doesn't have that extra percent.
You personally.
Little percent. Yeah, he actually called me and said, I'm going to show you today that I don't have what it takes,
accent,
Digby.
mate.
You'll see. You'll see.
All right, well, look, let's not hold Digby back any longer, but rounding out the podium and to the excitement and relief of many, many Mercedes fans around the world, well, actually probably any non-Max or Alonso fan, was that of Sir Lewis Hamilton, who after 7 races without seeing the post-race celebration, grabbed 3rd spot. And wasn't he chuffed about it? Firstly, I was quite comforted post-qualifying when he said that his P4 and quali was equal to the feeling he had when he first started out and got kind of those really great qualifying positions. He then even went on after the race and suggested that his 3rd spot on the weekend was almost equal to the feeling of winning a race, iterating just how much it all still means to him and just how much he must be struggling this year to have such little satisfaction and result. Ev, it was quite the contrast to the Lewis we saw at the end of practice, but you've got to love his response and just how much it looks to have meant to him, right?
Yeah, I think that's what people have been worried about, thinking, lots of quickfire journalists are saying, well, is this going to be his last year? Oh, what's he going to, he looks like he's lost the will to fight. And he just needs, like anybody, he just needs, a good result to remind him that it's all okay. That's all. I think he's human.
Yeah, good shout.
I think it was a lovely interview. I thought, because to hear him say that, it must be so terrifying to think, what if I'm never on the podium again?
Yeah.
Particularly for a 7-time world champion, that could have been in the record books at the end of last year as the greatest driver on record for world champions. Like, this must be a really tough pill to swallow for him. But let's not talk about that now, because I'm sure everybody's sick of it. But following behind Lewis for only the 2nd time this entire year, which is exceptional, was his teammate George Russell in 4th.
My man.
He continued his trend as the only driver to score points in every race. I got
1 point.
And importantly,
2 points.
continue that same trend of being the only driver to finish in the top 5 for every race. I called it out last week that we get to George every week and could literally just repeat what we said the week before. But I do want to call out something from his qualifying run that Well, to be honest,
Oh,
probably
yeah.
cost George another podium if you
The
work on
slicks.
the basis that once
Yep.
he's ahead of Lewis in the race, he stays ahead. So very quickly, as we mentioned at the top of this segment, qualifying was more or less underwater. And with that comes the excitement and intensity of getting the tyre choice right. As we discussed in our Monaco episode surrounding the role and value of tyres in a drying track, those that benefit best are those that change from wet to intermediate to slicks at the right time. Go early and you ice skate everywhere. Go too late and you lose a stack of time. Well, whilst those that got through to Q3 all continued to hammer out their hot laps with intermediate tyres, enticed by a quickly drying racing line, George made an independent call with a few minutes to go in the final session to be the only driver to swap over to slicks. He told his team that he wanted to do that, and buoyed by the outcome of a similar decision in a Williams last year that saw him qualify third, in a Williams, George rolled the dice again. Unfortunately, though, for him, it didn't work out, as one or two of those corners were just too wet, and he didn't end up qualifying fastest. But as he said, he didn't want to just settle for third or fourth or fifth. He wanted to risk it all to get on pole. Digz is a big fanboy. This type of maturity and trust from the team is a big indicator of just how good this kid is and will be. Were you like me and loving this, or thought he fucked up and cost himself a podium?
I loved the idea of it. I do remember as I was watching Quali and I saw it's like, oh, he's going for slicks. He must feel like the track is dry enough now. And I think just after that, they cut to one of the corners.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck. He's fucked. I was like,
yeah.
unless he knows something else that it will be drier. But I got why he did it. I guess he felt he'd done his best on inters. And where he was where he was going to be. Maybe he would have been one above Lewis. maybe not.
Yeah.
And that was worth the risk. And I think it was a good risk to take because ultimately he was still up in the pack, and it's not going to hurt him to lose to Lewis a couple of times, is it?
Yeah. But that's where they're at as a team this year, right? They've got to take these risks.
They have to.
If they're going to give themselves any chance.
And he got lucky with the safety car yet again. He's got a real knack for that, doesn't he?
But you got to do the right thing to capitalise on luck, and that's the best thing about George Russell is he's just so. Just very quickly, you mentioned there that when he chose the slicks, like whether or not he knew something that you didn't know. My mind immediately went back to. I don't remember the race it was last year, but when Lando refused to change to wets,
Russia.
when
I was just
Russia,
thinking about that.
Yeah, and he refused to go on wets, and he refused to go
Inters
on
or
intermediates
wets,
or wets, and he was
Yeah,
leading
yeah.
the Grand
One more
Prix.
lap, one more lap.
and then he was one more lap, and he was slipping on every corner.
He
and
was
just
so
watching
angry,
him get
like, it
away
was
from
hilarious.
Oh god!
They told him to come in.
Yeah, that was quite
He
funny.
said no.
Yeah.
He got halfway around and then complained that they didn't warn him that the storm was coming. Like,
It was-
he literally just said, "Come in, mate."
Yeah. Oh, anyway. So, yeah, look, it's real touch and go in those situations. And to your point, Digz, and actually I thought Jenson Button was really harsh towards George in the post interviews. He was challenging the fact that as a mature driver that wants to be able to kind of pursue championships, he shouldn't be getting those calls wrong. But, I mean, it's easy to say that in hindsight, right?
He had nothing to lose.
I get what Jensen's saying.
Yeah, that's
But he
right.
wasn't
I
exactly
agree,
in a position where that call made or break the championship.
No,
like,
no,
if he
no,
gets
no.
that
He didn't
right,
finish, like,
he's
10th.
He's a
Yeah.
genius. If he gets it
Yeah.
wrong, he's still fourth.
Yeah,
so
it's not
what's
the
problem?
result.
Yeah, well, that's
it's
right.
not the result that's the
Yeah,
issue here. It's the fact that he had the courage to do that, and it wasn't the craziest idea. It's
Exactly.
cold.
No,
Yeah.
he didn't have much to
Yeah,
lose,
no.
which I think is why he
Yeah.
did
But I
it.
love that his team trusted him.
Yeah.
All right, so whilst on the topic of Mercedes, putting aside bouncing and FIA potential impacts for now, many people post the weekend got just a little bit excited that maybe this could be the turning point for Mercedes. That just maybe after showing exceptional pace throughout the race, that they may well be in a position to start challenging for race wins. And in setting our sights on a return to, I guess, both of the drivers, both Lewis and George, at their home at Silverstone next race, which Digz is going to be at, lucky boy. But what a time it could be to grab a win. But in noting that we've had what feels like a few false starts with Mercedes in previous races to then only hit the next race and it all change again and there's shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we only have to go back 2 days ago before
Practice
the race
was
to
a
see how
very
Lewis
different
was.
story to Sunday.
Lewis is like, this is the worst car I've ever driven.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
Digz,
How am I supposed to drive it? Third place. I love it.
Yeah.
Great. Woo!
Yeah.
What
But
was
Digz,
it?
acknowledging that you were one of those that got a little bit excited, do you genuinely believe Mercedes are still in this fight?
I think
Honestly?
I mean, they're not. The points differential is not as grand as it could be, so they're still within a shot.
Yeah.
That car, like we saw from Friday to Sunday, goes through leaps and bounds every week. My only worry
fucking
is that
bipolar.
they get faster and then they get shit again. Like it's all track dependent.
Yeah.
Every week there's a new track, there's a new problem.
If it's
something
a good
they think
track,
they solved, they haven't
they're
solved.
good at.
Yeah,
The car is so stiff, and it
Yeah.
requires such a like a laboratory world. Like it needs to live in the lab, that car, because it's designed to work in a computer game. Essentially, it's not meant for real world bumps, and it can't go on curbs, and it can't do this and that. And
well, in saying that, Ev, like Ol and I messaged about that the other day, and I was in my head going, well, there's only so many street tracks left. There's Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore.
What would be the other bumpy tracks that they've got to be worried about this year?
I think you said any of the older tracks, didn't you?
Maybe. USA, Texas is a notoriously bumpy surface because they just haven't done a good job in building that track. They didn't lay the foundations properly. But yeah, anything that, I mean, I think Silverstone's been relayed.
Can we have a moment of like imagining what happens if like Lewis and George came home, in a 1-2 in Silverstone? Like,
I tell you what,
we're calling it now.
I'll tell you what happens
Ollie's
at
odds.
the end of the year if they end up high on the Drivers' Championship, or God forbid one of them actually win. Everyone will look back on this year and go, "Well, of course Mercedes won."
Of course,
Oh,
it was
yeah,
already
they
going to
had
happen.
a few
Yeah, they were
troubles at the
foxing.
start of
They
the
were
year.
foxing it. Yeah,
But at the moment, we can't see them solving the problem, so we're like, "Oh yeah, they're done. They're done." That's what's so great about this year. I couldn't tell you. Like Ollie's odds has been, as we've talked about, struggling.
Diabolical.
because every week something different happens.
I can't get it.
We cannot foresee.
All right, well, let's crack on with the rest of the top 10. In fifth spot was Ferrari's championship contender, Charles Leclerc, who after taking a raft of penalties due to reliability and performance failures in previous races, saw the Monegasque fight his way from the back of the grid to grab some vital points. That said, Ferrari fans would be getting pretty nervous now about his ability to win this year's championship. After a flying start, I think the reality is that he probably needs to win the next two to seriously give himself a chance.
Yeah.
So read this race. I believe his car was set up slightly different to afford him the best chance of working his way through the grid from the back.
Yep.
And whilst he did make up a stack of positions, you do wonder how far he could have gone had he have not gotten stuck behind some ridiculous DRS trains. And then the Alpine of Ocon, who race after race presents as a damn pest for getting past for some of the leading drivers.
As the race went on, I watched Leclerc fly. It felt like he was flying through the field, doing a great job. Then he got stuck behind Ocon, and I was thinking, well, Lewis made this look like a breeze, and now Leclerc's not going by. He's not going to get past him until there's a change in the pit or someone crashes or something.
Because Ocon pitted, didn't he? To get out of his way? Is that what happened? I don't
Alonso,
remember.
he held him long enough for Alonso to catch up again, basically.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really disappointing with Charles because I really expected him to do better than that. So I don't know if there was, maybe his tyres were just getting a bit old or whatnot, but I was a bit disappointed with his performance there. That it wasn't the best drive he's had, let's put it that way.
I'll tell you one thing, just what you're talking about there, Diggs, about Lewis passing easily and then Charles struggling. If there's anything that doing this podcast, but also kind of being involved with Ev and watching the F1 over the last couple of years is learning just how many variables there are. Like, it's never apples for apples in terms of like, because the cars are so different. But, when Lewis passed Ocon, and again, I can't remember where in the race it was, but Lewis could have been on really fresh tyres and Ocon could have been old, kind of deg tyres, as opposed to when Charles tried to pass him, maybe Charles was on deg tyres and Ocon was on new. I can't remember, but it's amazing. And it isn't ever just about going around and around in circles. There is so much to this sport.
That being said, my favourite overtake of the whole race was early. Was it the first lap? It was Lewis on Magnussen.
Oh, yeah.
And Magnussen tried to drive around the outside. And the commentators, like Martin Brundle, was like, why would you do that? Like, there's nowhere for you to go. You're an idiot. And then, like, Magnussen's angry with Lewis on the radio. I was like, buddy, don't do that. You screwed your whole race.
There's just on that, and again, I let's not labour on this for too long, but correct me if I'm wrong, Diggs. I think you might have brought my attention to it, but Magnussen got black and orange flagged for that, didn't he? Didn't he have to pit because of his...
My problem with that was they showed the damage just as they got the flag called. Now, I need Ev to answer this one. It didn't really... He seemed to be driving fine with that damage, and the damage didn't seem so bad that they would have needed to call him off the track for it, Ev.
No. if that thing was flapping, if it comes loose, it can fly up or go into the crowd or doing anything like that.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Or
Okay,
if it doesn't do that and it lays on the track, if that's in the middle of the track, you're going to drive over it, get a really bad puncture. If it lands in the braking zone, you could skid
similar,
on.
But obviously not the same. That hadn't been called on that, so that makes.
I can see Digz. I can see Digz in the crowd one day with a piece of DRS stuck in his forehead, like that Simpsons episode where the guy takes the coin out of his head, like when Burns drops it from the roof. Hey, look, all right, going back and speaking.
Digby would have like 3 wheels on his car. Why the fuck are you bringing me in?
I'm fine.
What's the matter? What's the matter? Ref? Oh, ref! What are you doing to me, ref?
Sylvester Stallone impersonation last week, though. But anyways, look, we're getting wildly off track. But going back and speaking of Alpine's Ocon, the French driver for the French team came home in an incredible 6th spot and initially was followed closely behind by his teammate Alonso in 7th, who was actually then served with a penalty post the race, which dropped him to 9th. So we'll touch on the older of the Spaniards in a second. But gents, we called it some time ago that Alpine were likely to be the best of the rest when they sat behind Haas, Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri. And now they're only a couple of points away from McLaren. But that said, I feel like Alonso's pit wall may have fucked it up on the weekend. So excitingly for all F1 fans, Alonso put in an incredible quali session to grab front row for the race start. But after a pretty woeful start that didn't live up to the hype of pre-race predictions, and he was saying, "I'm going to slam it down the inside." I'm going to. What was it?
I thought I watched that replay thinking, "Oh, he had a bad start," but he actually wasn't. He didn't start that bad. Max had a phenomenal start.
Yeah,
he just broke
clinical
away from
Max
the pack.
again. Yep. Yeah, fair enough. But look, aside from that, which I think everybody was really excited, Alonso didn't have anything to lose. Everyone thought he was going to send it down the inside. And, somebody, I think it might have been Lydia, friend of the show, message. Oh, no, actually it wasn't Lydia, it was someone else, but they said something along the lines of, here's my tip. Alonso sends it down the inside, cleans up his car and Max's car, and Lewis and George go on to get a 1-2 for the race. And I thought that could very much be doable, right? But other than the start of the race, his team seemed to leave him out for far too long for pitting. And then when he did pit, he got stuck behind his teammate. That said, my understanding is that his car also had performance issues, and it was a directive for Ocon to more or less tow him to the end of the race. But boys, the figure he cut of a very frustrated man after the race was substantially different to the Alonso we saw before the race.
Yeah, I mean, Ev will have to explain this one. I felt odd. Mm-hmm. He knew before the race, he was like, I know my car isn't able to stay, it's not fast enough, so my job is to keep in everyone's way as much as possible until the inevitable overtakes.
I think he said somewhere that on race pace, he was expecting them to be like 6th and 7th.
Yeah, okay.
So he knew that he wasn't in the race. He had an airflow issue, some air hose that was attached to his engine. So he'd get up to top speed and then top gear, and he'd be down like 20 kilometers. So the engine pump obviously wasn't getting enough air in the fuel mix. So that's why Ocon had to drag him along essentially and give him the tow, just to keep him in the points,
and then obviously he was doing everything he could to defend himself in the points and not drop from 7th spot. That he changed direction about 4 or 5 times and hence got served the penalty. Whoops.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at the expense of an already angry Alonso, excitingly for Alfa Romeo, the team had another great weekend with a then promoted 7th and 8th spot for Bottas and Zhou Guanyu, respectively. Did I get that right? I think I did this week.
Zhou Guanyu.
Oh, fuck.
Zhou Guanyu?
Zhou Guanyu.
They're pronouncing it Joe, so whether or not
No, but I think they're supposed to pronounce it Zhou.
Zhou.
Yeah, but I think that might be his chosen
he's
English.
asked.
All right, okay. Well, to be honest, I didn't pay too much attention to their race, but look, it's another solid effort for a team that understands and perhaps accepts, their current place in the midfield, particularly for the F1's first ever Chinese driver who, albeit has faced the usual scrutiny that comes with being a paid driver, he showcased again that when his car holds up, he's got the skills to compete for points, and I thought it was a great race from him.
Yeah.
Last but not least, and I love the irony of this, in 10th spot in his home race, which I may add was apparently donned with Latifi merchandise, was Aston Martin's Lance Stroll, who grabbed points for his 3rd home race, and who unfortunately grabbed it at the expense of our very own Danny Rick in the final few laps.
Painful moment of the race for me.
Yeah, Digz, I threw to you last week Lance Stroll and his return to Canada, And even pre the race, you were pretty happy to double down on your belief that he wouldn't feature in the race. A few people actually
I said
called
he
you
would be
out
lucky.
on it.
He would be
Yeah,
lucky.
fair call, yeah. And whilst that doesn't surprise me, what did was that there were actually Stroll fans out there. But all that aside, is this a bit of humble pie here that you've got to eat, or just a bit of luck, particularly with Perez and Schumacher's retirement when he appeared to be on track for points?
I'm happy to eat that humble pie, but some of these
Oh,
people talk
okay.
like-
I thought for sure
I think,
you'd
like,
say
some
you
of
would.
these,
Yeah, okay.
These Stroll fans seem to think that means he's a magician. It's like he got 10th with a few DNFs thrown in there for the good measure.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I mean, he did perform when he took over Danny. That was heartbreaking because I was like, wow, he earned the place. He wasn't just like,
Yeah.
he wasn't 11th and someone was DNFing, so he was 10th. He took that place and he took it convincingly. And it was a great drive. I thought he actually drove quite well.
He's digging up
but
here, ladies
again,
and gentlemen.
Nothing spectacular. Nothing spectacular.
That's about as much of an apology you're ever going to get from Digby. But no, good on
that
you,
was
man.
not an
Good
apology.
sport. No. Good sport. Hey, but speaking of Schumacher, accompanied by the fact that Magnussen finished last of all the drivers that were actually on the grid, what the fuck's going on with Haas? They started so well, but very quickly they're starting to look like a bit like the team that they were known for last year.
Just no upgrades.
They had that power unit issue, didn't they?
Yeah, they had another reliability
Mick.
issue with
That's
Mick.
maybe it's a Ferrari problem.
Yeah, it's Ferrari
Yep.
thing.
Yeah. So that's
they
unfortunate.
they've I don't know if they've brought one single upgrade since the start of the season.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's why.
I mean, they've got something there, but maybe that was just the wet giving us false hope.
Similarly, it was a really poor weekend out for AlphaTauri after a pretty promising Baku with a nothing race, more or less, from Gasly and another, I guess, it was another retirement for Yuki. But on AlphaTauri, and I'm just taking, I don't want to talk about their race, but I just want well done to you, Ev. Some pods ago, we had a pretty decent discussion about the future of Gasly post Perez signing a new Red Bull contract. And whilst I was adamant he would leave AlphaTauri, you weren't. And you suggested he was staying, and you were right. It was confirmed over the weekend that he signed on for 2023. But weirdly enough, it's actually only for the year, I believe. So I'm going to be really looking forward to having that exact same conversation with you in a year's time when we go around
Bring it
again.
on.
Yeah. So that's before I forget and completely wrap this up, McLaren. Oh dear.
No.
So as I mentioned above, Danny was in for points again on the weekend, but my God, after what has got to be the most woeful pit in recent history,
That was
the garage
so bad.
fucked Danny's race and added to an already really painful weekend for Norris. But look, a few weeks ago, McLaren was banging on about Danny needing to deliver. Then last week, his pit wall held him back from overtaking, and this week, his garage cost him a stack of seconds in the pit stop that inevitably saw him lose a place or two and result in no points. Whilst they barely hang on to fourth in the constructors and look very likely to be overtaken by Alpine in the next few weeks, Diggs, Evs, these guys seem to be a shadow of the team they were last year. What is going on at McLaren?
If you are new to F1 and you need an example to understand why this is a team sport, they are demonstrating that brilliantly. They go for a double stop, and I think between the two of them, they were sitting still for 30 seconds. Or maybe it was 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like 16 seconds and 8 seconds where they were just waiting.
Yeah.
And that's unorganized. That's a team, an unorganized team, trying. I don't know how they manage that because their car isn't fast enough to really contend with the top. So everything else around it has to be amazing. What you used to see with Williams, their pit stops were often the fastest because that's where they gained their time.
Yeah.
By being the best in the pit because their car just
we
couldn't
had
perform.
this whole season. We've had the narrative that Daniel Ricks, his time's up. We have talked about it here, and I've even said about how maybe let him go in the summer break.
You didn't maybe say that. You did say it.
Since then, he's doubled down his efforts in the simulator, and he's worked with his team, and apparently they've come to a mutual understanding. And then he had a couple of really good races. Well, by his low standards, but he was outstripping Lando, and now Lando's had a couple of poor races, and he seems to be a shadow of himself. And the team is doing poorly, and he's thinking like how that narrative's changed now that they're kind of on equal footing. Daniel and Lando are both kind of equally a bit underwhelming at this moment.
Well, my question is, every time Daniel beats Lando, does that count as Daniel doing what they're paying him to do? And Lando, why aren't we looking at Lando and going, "Hey mate, what were you doing this weekend? Why are you not?"
I
Oh,
suppose
look, he had
at a
terrible
minimum.
car issues on the weekend, though, to Lando's
Well, that's the thing.
credit.
But then if you look back, that's what Daniel's problem was as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
why was it when, like, I know I was one of his harshest critics, but that's because I want him to do better. But why is it that when Daniel's doing badly, it's like, well, Daniel should be doing better. It's his time to go. But then when he's beating Lando, it's, he's had so many car issues. They're both having car issues.
Yeah. But I think the time, like, I think everyone's saying Danny's had issues for 18 months, whereas Lando feels a bit. So look, anyways, time will tell. But yeah, weird stuff going on over at McLaren, and back to the Stroll point. That is why Stroll was able to grab points and grab 10th spot, because if Danny hadn't have been held up in the pits, he would have finished in 10th.
Like I said, he'll be lucky, and he was.
There you go. All right.
Congratulations, Lance.
Yeah.
You earned it, buddy. You earned that.
Just on that of McLaren, you know what I think? I don't think anyone at McLaren are paying enough attention.
They hasn't been.
They hasn't been paying attention, and that's right. Here we are again, gentlemen. The world's most useless quiz that I'm confident does much more damage than good to our credentials to lead and deliver a podcast on F1. But here we are. So very quickly for the newbies, in every episode, my fellow idiots here will go up against each other in a bid to claim the inaugural Idiots of F1 Championship, where the winner, come the end of the season, will be able to determine which charity the loser will throw $500 towards. So albeit it's comical in how poor this has gone in the last, 12 episodes, the point is that it does have good intentions. As of today, the score stands at Digby 8, Ev 4. And after a 2-week hiatus, last week saw the return of Digz to grab another win and immediately pick up where he left his form. Ev, in reflecting on the last few weeks, I really worry that Digz, had he have not gone on 2 weeks break, could well and truly be leading this quiz 10-2, which I'll iterate again is quite concerning given this whole concept was built on the proposition that it was the master versus the apprentice, the expert versus the noob. And to address my immediate confusion for our listeners, yes, you, Ev, were supposed to be the master and the expert. But as it stands, Digby is, wiping the floor with your own very luscious locks. So please, for the love of God, please, can you just start winning? Please. So with that, and all teed up, boys, as always, let's get your buzzer checks in.
No.
And I'm somewhat embarrassed to say this, Ev, but can you, on the basis of last week, make sure you nail your buzzer? Because you actually fell over at the last hurdle because you couldn't remember your buzzer last week.
That is true.
That's why. That's why he lost.
Yeah.
Buzzer. Yeah.
So I suggest you
remind
really...
you, I lost 1 week because I screamed out the answer instead of saying my buzzer.
But mate, don't make this harder for yourself than it need be. But so let's start with you, Ev. Buzzer check, please, sir.
Turn right, Yuki. Because he forgot to turn right.
Yeah.
He just kind of went
turn
straight.
right, Yuki. Even I'm going to forget that. Anyways, whatever. You're
Sorry,
great, mate.
I'm not an ambi-turner.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maury.
Digz, what you got, man?
Where are my tyres?
Yeah, very
Lando.
good. That's Lando.
Where are my tyres?
Yeah, that's good. All right. Ev, you remember yours? Just triple checking. Yeah, cool. No further delays. Let's get stuck in. Music Maestro. Here we go. Question 1. Looking at the weekend's winner, how many times has Max previously won the Canadian Grand Prix?
Where are my
Turn right,
tyres?
Yuki.
That was Digz.
Other than this one,
Yeah, other than this one.
0.
Ding, ding, ding. That is correct. Well done, mate. It was a bit of a trick question. I wanted to
faster. I was waiting
Yeah.
for you to jump in.
Yeah.
I thought I was ahead. That's all I know.
No. You can blame
Not
the
on
internet as
mine.
much as you want on that, mate. Question 2, 1-0. Vettel failed to grab points for the first time ever in Canada. How many times has he raced there previously?
Where are my tyres?
What you got, Digz?
Previously, so not including
Not
this
including
race.
this one. So how many races not including this one?
10.
You're wrong.
Damn it.
I'm going to say, for some reason, I think it's 13. I don't know why.
Oh, you're also wrong.
What is it?
It's 11.
I knew it was around there.
Actually, Ev, if they had have raced in the last 2 years, you would have been right. So you were so...
Yeah.
I should give you
that's
half.
true.
No, I won't give you half.
I think I was counting.
No, because they didn't.
back.
They didn't do it.
Yeah.
I was closer. I should get the half.
All right, question 3. Red Bull are currently equal lead of all constructors for mechanical retirements this season following Sergio's DNF. How many mechanical retirements has Team Red Bull had in 2022? And for an additional point for each correct answer, who are they tied with?
Where are my tyres?
What you got?
I've got 4.
You're right. You're right.
Come on.
Any guess as to who they're tied with?
Haas.
Yep, so that's 1 point.
So there's more, obviously. Ferrari.
Wrong. Ev, I'm going to let you have a crack at one there because it's 3-0 to Digz. Can you name the other team that Red Bull and Haas are tied with for mechanical retirement?
I go Alpine.
Oh, starts with an A. It's Alfa Romeo. So all of Red Bull's DNFs this year have actually been mechanical. And just to note, whilst Haas have had 5 DNFs in total, one of them was Schumacher's accident in Monaco. And actually, Ferrari have also had more DNFs than Red Bull with 5, but 2 of them weren't mechanical and rather collisions that were done by Carlos. Right, so it's 3-0. Ev, you got it. You've got 3 thereabouts questions left to go, buddy. You can do this. I believe in you. The people believe in you. All right? He doesn't look like he believes
hating
himself.
that I'm winning this.
Yeah, right.
I can hear all those people who.
Why? Well, I'm Lewis. Why are we even doing this? Why can't I? Why? Why am I doing this?
All right, question 4.
I'm trying to think of a rational answer.
Listen, think of the sick children. Listen carefully here. Max has now moved to outright 9th spot on the all-time F1 winners list following his 26th career win. On the basis that he wins the final 13 races of the year, hypothetically of course, which other current driver on the grid would he overtake in the all-time winners list?
Turn right, Yuki.
What you got?
Alonso?
Yeah, boy! Yes! Well done. All right, so Alonso,
You're welcome.
he currently has 32 wins and holds 6th spot. And for anyone else interested, 5th spot is Senna with 41 wins. Only Vettel and Hamilton are the only other current drivers on that list above him with 53 and 103 wins respectively.
Wow.
Right, here we go. 3-1. Question 5. Which team driver had the fastest pit stop for the weekend's Grand Prix?
Turn right, Yuki.
What do you got?
Was it AlphaTauri and Yuki Tsunoda?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, because they were complimenting him. They were like, that was such a good pit stop. And then he didn't turn right.
Yeah. To be fair, he was second. Ev, he was second. Yeah.
Free shot at this. I'm trying to remember the pit stops, but I'm going to go with...
I think Vettel had a good one.
Not Vettel, that wasn't going to be my answer, but...
I thought Verstappen had a good one. Who else?
Shut up, Ev.
Keep giving me the answers.
Come on, 5 seconds.
I don't care at this point.
Okay, I'll go Ocon and Alpine.
No, wrong. And actually, I think it might have been, I can't remember who mentioned it earlier, but you guys... No, Digz, you did. You suggested that Williams were really good at pit stops.
They did.
So it was Williams. Albon, actually, with 2.38 seconds.
Well,
it was followed by Tsunoda, and to Ev's point before, Vettel did come in third there. All right, here we go. Last question, and this weirdly enough wasn't actually manufactured beforehand, but for 3 points as a whole. So Ev, if you get this right, you win.
Fuck off.
Name the bottom 5 constructors from bottom to top in order as of today. Get one in the wrong order, and you're out.
Turn right,
my
Yuki.
tyres.
I think you were in there. Get one wrong and you are out. So you get...
I just need
to...
just get the blood flowing and I'll just stretch my hands.
No, come on. You should...
Fuck no.
From bottom to top.
Time limit, please.
Bottom to top. Let's go.
Yeah. Haas on the bottom.
Wrong, you're out. God damn it.
Yay.
God damn it.
Yeah.
All right, Digz, I'm going to have a crack anyway. What you got, Digz?
Williams.
Yes.
Haas.
Yes.
Aston Martin.
Yes.
Well done. That was it, isn't it?
No, 2 more.
No, 5.
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo.
Ooh, no.
No.
AlphaTauri, then Alfa Romeo.
AlphaTauri, then Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Well, based on
so I get all the points then.
Getting a couple. Yeah, sure.
He lost.
That is a clean sweep by you there, Digby. That is 5-0, mate. That is like clean sheet, clean everything. Bing, bang, bong. That's it, people. We have another wiener. It is Digby, and he now leads this crazy thing. What are we? 9-4. But Ev, come on, man, you can do this. There's still plenty of time.
We've still got to get the guests.
I think we're just going to have to get guests in to take you on now,
I'm
Digby.
making an apology, a live apology this week to those who I have spoken to either on email or on Messenger who I've said will come on the quiz. Just due to my surgery and being overseas, it's made it a bit hard for us to organise. So when I'm back, probably the second week I'm back, I'd say we'll start this list because we really do want to get everyone on the show when we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hold tight. We haven't forgotten about you.
If you're really dumb and don't know anything, we'll get you on for Digby so that Ev can rack up some points. But if you're smart, we'll get you on for Ev so he can tackle Digby.
I'm really actually. I know that Ev's going to start coming back. I'm terrified.
This sounds like you talking about Mercedes every week. Oh, they're going to come back. They're going to come back. No,
he might.
I'm genuinely concerned now. All right, boys. It's been a while, but I'm excited and proud to bring back to the pod for another appearance, Twat of the Week.
You twat.
Built on the idea and reality that social media is ultimately the gift that keeps on giving, and motivated by the words of others, every now and then we bring this back and utilise this segment to call out some real twats. Think of it as Tweet of the Week, but solely based around calling out arseholes and, well, twats that say dumb shit. And it wasn't too hard to go too far to find this week's winner. So for a bit of context, following her debut as part of Sky F1's broadcast team, previous W Series driver Naomi Schiff marked her return to the TV and was immediately keyboard warriored by many, including this absolute wanker who goes by the Twitter name of Paul. Tweeted a picture of her in her racing suit, mind you, with the comment, "This is Naomi, Sky Sports' latest F1 commentator. Can you guess what her main qualifications for that job is? Hint, it isn't Formula One experience."
Arsehole.
Now, before we get on to the last action hero hiding behind the keyboard, let's hero a few things here to help Paul get his ducks in a row. Firstly, Naomi is an accomplished driver, racing driver, in fact. I should have said that first. She has a history that goes back to 2010 with some career highlights, including...
That's going to be taken out of context on news.com next week.
Yeah.
Famous podcast, Oliver Scheuer calls out Naomi Schiff for being an accomplished driver.
Look, she has a history that goes back to 2010 with some career highlights, including winning the 2014 Clio Cup China Series, competing in the 24 Hours of Zolder, and even finishing second in her class at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. And for anyone that's fucking driven Nürburgring, is that how you pronounce it, Ev?
Nürburgring.
Nürburgring, yes.
One?
I can't finish that on the PlayStation, let alone even think about driving that in a race car. Secondly, her knowledge and capacity to translate that at real time, clearly and engagingly on live TV for the betterment and of understanding what's happening at a particular moment in a Grand Prix is genuinely second to none. She brings an incredible diversity to thought and opinion and is a wonderful balance for consideration.
We'd actually argue here that she's the best. One of the best on the. I couldn't fault her
absolutely.
at all. I think she's the quickest. She's the clearest. She never hesitates in what she has to say. She always has fantastic questions to ask the driver, and her insight is just brilliant. So I don't know what Paul's really getting at, mate. Are you upset that she knows more than you, mate?
No, I think he's upset that his insecurities.
Sometimes, like hasn't happened in this case, but sometimes sports broadcast will just hire a woman to be the host who isn't the knowledgeable sports player, but they're the host, so they do have diversity. And I think Naomi has shown time and time and again that she's not there just because she's a woman, Paul. She is there because she knows what the fuck she's talking about, and she does it very well. And it's really refreshing to have a young female driver there who knows what's going on and has something more interesting to say than most people that they would get on.
Well said, Diggs. And look, I want to acknowledge the irony that we are all white men on a soapbox, calling out that, it's great to see diversity. So we're well and truly aware of how important it is. But you're absolutely right. Like, nails it, brilliant. But, Ev, just to also, I guess, shove a dagger into little old insecure Paul, who's obviously struggling with his own identity. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe David Croft or our favourite Ted are ex-racers, right?
Well, no. No.
But yeah, so no, they're not. But these guys are the anchors for insight, knowledge, and the consumption of F1 for many years. But we don't see old mate Paul calling them out for the lack of experience.
I don't see Paul calling out the lack of performance from some of the other actual ex-drivers commentating. Where's Paul complaining where their championships are? You know, it's clear.
Where's Paul complaining about how fucking boring Nico Rosberg is?
Hey, you Nico out of this.
Sorry.
But what I want to explain to you, Paul, the main job of a broadcaster or commentator is to indeed be good at commentating. And a lot of sports forget that. Yep. So I think it's great that Sky Sports have remembered that you actually have to be good at talking and have something good to say and be interesting to listen to, not just be someone who... That's why you don't have all the world champs on the fucking show, because maybe they're fucking boring.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe from us, Paul.
Yeah. Don't listen to us, Paul. You're not allowed to anymore. But look, just very quickly, following Naomi calling out this Paul with a brilliant retweet of his nonsense, which I thought was phenomenal by her, it then set in motion the likes of Lewis, Max Verstappen, Seb Vettel, amongst many, calling out the need to challenge and bring attention to these somewhat deeply seated, in this perspective, sexist points of view, but it obviously extends to racial as well. So, unfortunately for our mate Paul, he's since deleted his Twitter amidst the no doubt inundation of love that he's received. But Paul, should you happen across this episode, in your bid to feel comforted by white males passing on their opinions regarding F1, we just wanted to let you know, mate, that you are our official twat of the week. And no, you dickhead, it's not a good thing. You now join the likes of Jos Verstappen, some social media superstar who I can't remember his name or care to, plus potentially number one in the running for Twat of the Year, the Saudi Arabian race marshal who wished ill events on Lewis Hamilton during the race. You're in good company, you twat.
You fucking twat.
No, Mikey, that was so not right.
Right, okay, with that, we've arrived at what's Verstappening for the week. For a reminder of returning callers and a nod to those joining us for the first time, we use this part of the pod to go bout for bout across a number of core headlines or topics that have made their way around in and around the race and on-track event landscape. It's really that extra little bit of effort on our behalf to make sure that you've got a gobful of all things F1 and, well, to be honest, are about as up to speed as possible. Gents, whilst I've been a little casual in time limits, I'm not shoving a countdown down your throat. We've got a few things to cover off today, so you will receive a nod if you don't get to the
cut
point
us off.
quickly.
Cut us off at the time.
Yeah. In terms of order, Ev, we'll get you to go first, brother, with Digz second. So if it's all right with you guys, we'll crack on and then we'll round out this podcast and eat dinner or breakfast for you, Digz. Performance, pain, and penalties. With 13 races to go, many teams look to be at the edge of allowances for replaced parts, with a nod that Charles took a huge penalty hit for taking many parts over the weekend. 2 questions as part of your response. Is this normal for this stage of the season? And on the basis that many teams are close to their allowances, surely many penalties to come for all teams moving forward.
I think they're getting one less engine a year this year.
Is that a cost cap thing?
So before, I think... Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But also because the engines have been kept the same. Normally the engines get an upgrade like every year, like anything else.
Oh, okay.
But they've kept the engines the same as last year. Yeah, which should mean that they were supposed to have greater reliability, but that obviously hasn't been the case. I'm excited because if everybody's struggling except Mercedes, who haven't had an issue, not one issue, I don't think. This stuff, they're going to start dropping like flies. Imagine every other race, it's going to be, Max is going to drop it to the back.
To the back of the grid.
Or Charles drops back to, like somebody's, that's the name of the game.
Yeah, okay.
I
think that's actually going to be exciting. That's going to how you're really going to shuffle it up.
Yeah, well, they made a good point on the weekend. They say, we're having a longer and longer season, and as Ev pointed out, with one less engine. So you'll probably see them change that next year, I guess, because otherwise everyone is just taking the penalty. But as Ev suggested, makes for great TV. So rather than change the rule, I'd actually agree with you, Ev. Yeah, keep it as it is and enforce that penalty.
Yeah, Mercedes don't need you to have more engines. Like, why don't you design a better engine, Red Bull?
And
Red Bull powertrains.
Just because we're talking about this, but is the point of having kind of an allowance for key parts simply that to kind of manage the competitive playing field, so that someone like Ferrari couldn't just drop a new engine into the car every fucking race? Yeah, okay.
Ferrari and Mercedes could do that. They could afford to do that. Whereas Haas can't.
Yep.
And again, it's all cost cap.
Yep.
You've all got to abide by it. You all agreed to this. More importantly,
okay, all right. And very quickly, can you just in layman's terms, what parts are we talking about? So you've got your main kind of power unit, which is the engine, turbo.
That's the ICE, internal combustion engine. You have the turbo that goes into that. You've got the kinetic recovery.
Is that your battery thing? Is it kinetic energy? No.
No. The battery's separate.
Okay.
So the MGUK is what you get with the braking regen.
Yep.
So that's what powers the battery. That does its own thing. And then there's also a heat sink.
Okay.
So that absorbs heat energy, like kinetic hot energy from the engine, and converts that to electricity as well, which they're getting rid of. So there are, and then you've got the transmission.
Yeah, the gearbox. Okay.
And then things like the brakes.
Again, I only have some knowledge of this because I play the F1 game, and when you do the career mode, you've got to be aware of these things. But again, quite a complicated remit for kind of new F1 fans or casual F1 fans.
Yeah.
So appreciate you guys just jumping in there. All right, next topic. Adelaide's audacious attempt. Late last week, it was confirmed that Melbourne would extend its contract to host the Australian GP for another 10 years up until 2035. Having heard recently that Adelaide went hard with a last-minute pitch where apparently the new Premier had dangled the carrot of a night race in Adelaide and flexibility on when the event would be held to make scheduling easier for the sport's governing body. Gents, would you have rather seen it go to Sydney or back to Adelaide, or are you happy that it stays at Albert Park, knowing apparently that it will not be the first race of the season?
I think that it's going to be, some years it's going to be the first. That's what they've said. They're going to alternate.
Okay. They're going to mix it up
tracks.
a bit. All right. Happy with it being back
I'm
in
happy
Melbourne?
that it's there. Yeah, they made those changes to the track. They've obviously invested in that.
Yep.
I think they should be rewarded.
I love Melbourne. I'm so happy it's back in Melbourne. An Adelaide night race would have been
cool.
Interesting, but I think
Pretty
what makes
amazing.
Melbourne so great is the beauty
it would have been
of
good.
the backdrop of the city and the water. They really
It's
make
such
it
a
look
wonderful
great.
location.
And I think it would be very disappointing to lose that. I don't think Sydney would be able to replicate what Melbourne has down there as far as a visual race to look at. And it's a shame that it won't be first race every year, but good to know that it will be sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I
want them to go to Bathurst. Go up the mountain.
They fly off the mountain.
Seb Vettel came out and said that 2 weeks ago, by the way. Seb Vettel said that he would be happy to see it around Bathurst. But very quickly, and Ev, you may not know the answer to this, so don't linger on it too long. But again, we're not entirely
I seem to
sure
not know
what's
the
gonna
answer to
happen.
many of your questions.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. But we don't know what's going to happen with Piastri, but it has come out that he will definitely be driving in F1 next year. Don't know what's going to happen for the rest of this year.
Talking about that.
Yeah. But will this could next year's Melbourne race be the first time ever that two Australian drivers have lined up? I mean, look, there's still a bit up into question of whether or not that would definitively happen, whether it be Danny or Oscar. But will this will be the first ever race with two Australian drivers, or has Webber and Ricciardo raced? Did they race at the same time?
I don't think so.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Next one. Hamilton mouth money. Last week it was revealed that Lewis is the fifth most charitable Brit, having given away over £20 million of his £300 net worth. Whilst we tend to overreact to his kindness, almost overly kind and thoughtful approach, and messages that often feels a bit PR driven, surely this is a significant reality check that he more than walks the talk and deserves his knighthood and all the other accolades for more than just his driving record.
Yep.
I think it's good that he does do that charity work quietly, because with all the things that he loves to say, and look at this, but
What loudly?
He just he reduces that tax dollar very effectively. Every year.
God.
Well, that's what it is. But it's doing great things for charity. It's doing wonderful things. It's a great place to put your money, and great that he's doing it. And he's one of the top. Like, there are plenty of people who could be doing as much as he is, and they're not.
Yeah. Well, good joke there. I'm going to assume you were joking, but just not. No, it's good. It's great. All right, F1 World Tour. Last week, rumour mills has suggested the F1 is very likely to add South Africa to its calendar next year, which after a 30-year absence would be a wonderful inclusion. However, with Qatar and China both returning to the fixture and Las Vegas to be added, the inclusion of what is apparently F1's priority expansion track, South Africa, is very likely to come at the expense of another track, of which Spa has been earmarked as the race to go. Noting that Digz and I have probably never seen a South African race. Is it worth giving up Spa for, or could this potentially be the start of a rotating fixture year after year?
I think it'll be a rotating thing, and I think that will be easier to swallow for people. If you say, maybe we don't have Monaco for a year because these cars are pretty crap around there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, instead of saying, oh, we're never going to race there again.
Yeah, okay.
Is South Africa a good track, though?
I don't think it's been built yet.
Oh, is it a brand new track?
I don't know. I think they had raced.
I haven't seen it.
I can't pronounce it. They raced there 30 years ago, but obviously the track's going to need a whole heap of work. But this won't be the first time they've ever raced in South Africa. But yeah, I have no idea. I've never seen anything. I don't know anything about it. But there's a lot of excitement about it. I just know that we as Spa fans. I mean, it's
I like
one of my
all the old
favourite
tracks. I actually prefer all the classic
yeah.
tracks. I don't like the designs of the new ones.
Yep, they have character.
They have much more character.
Yeah,
They all have their own driving style. It's just, look, Spa, it'd be a shame to lose Spa, but one negative of Spa is it's always fucking raining.
All right, gents, last one for today. A different one. On this day, 44 years ago, almost to the day, Niki Lauda won one of the most controversial GPs of all time in Sweden in what was referred to as Bernie Ecclestone's Brabham Alpha BT46B, aka the Brabham fan car. The car raced only once, it won the race, and it was then withdrawn and never seen again. So approaching this one slightly differently, Ev, tell us quickly what on earth was this all about? And then Digz, post that. We'd love your comments regarding whether you'd heard this story before or what your thoughts are on it.
So Jack Brabham had a team. Jack Brabham, an Aussie who's won the Formula One Championship, and he was running this team with Niki Lauda as the driver. Gordon Murray, who is considered one of the greatest designers in F1 history, they had the ground effect. So what they had were actually little skirts that dropped down from the side of the car. It's not that they didn't lower the car to the floor and then have it like that. They actually had little skirts, like a hovercraft has little skirts. And then he actually put a fan. It looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's a fan on the back of the car, and it's meant to, what it does is that it sucks the air from underneath the car. It has so what happens when in the aero of it is that the air going under the car is compressed and travels faster, and then there's a negative space in there, and that's what sucks it to the ground. Having that fan activates that aero in a sense, so it allows it to have even more grip. And by all accounts, that car was super glued to the floor, and which is why it was banned. It's dangerous how fast it went.
Wow. Okay. How did that get through scrutineering? How did it ever get on the track?
Because it was the 70s. They didn't. It was not like what it is now.
Could you literally enter was this halfway through a season or something? Or was it the beginning of the season? How do you just enter?
I think it was at the beginning of the season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
you just make it up as it goes along.
And
these aren't made of carbon fiber or anything. And so, and we're now we're 35 years later. Gordon Murray, who designed the McLaren F1, which is the greatest road car ever made.
Yeah.
He's now coming out with his own design group called Gordon Murray Automotive, and he's redesigned the fan car for the 21st century or 22nd.
No way.
Yeah,
no
and by
way.
So it's got a fan. It's got a much smaller fan, but it's hugely more efficient. You can look it up. It looks incredible.
Oh,
and
get that up on
it's
the
doing
socials,
exactly the
Digz.
same thing.
Yep.
It sucks the floor. There are two little vents in the floor. Sucks the air out from underneath, and so that car just hunkers down.
Wow.
And he's all about lightweight and stuff like that.
And very quickly, what did Bernie Ecclestone have to do with all of it?
I think he was one of the.
He funded or something.
Yeah, he's one of the owners.
Okay.
Yeah. He's always
Digz,
he's always
thoughts
had
on
his
that,
fingers
mate?
in
Have you
his
seen the
pies.
picture of the car?
Yeah, I have. I
have
love
to send
the
it.
stuff that happened in the 70s, just coming up with these new ideas because they haven't refined anything yet. It's
Six
just
wheels.
You know what? Let's chuck this fan on, suck it down, and everyone's like, brilliant. They're like, oh, we can't have that.
Brilliant.
And then that produces for the next 35 years. Now we have particular
Yeah,
rules.
yeah.
No fans on the back of the car, so you're never going to see those outrageous inventions again.
No. Well, they all look the same now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, there you go. We've talked a very
Give it a
broad
go.
range of things here, from ghost cars to South Africa.
Ghost car.
And I guess that's the beauty of what's Verstappening. There's no limits to what will go near. And speaking of, if you come across something in your weekly musings and browsing, and you're keen for us to chat about it because you're desperate for our input, hit us up. Jump on the socials or our website and use the form to flick us a note. And the reality is we're happy to talk about anything. Goodness, last week's episode, we even touched on drivers shitting and pissing themselves. So, no stone unturned and stuff like that. But with that wonderful call to action, ladies, gents, idiots and alike, that is it for this week's episode. Another one in the bag. Whilst there's no race this weekend coming, we will be back same time next week as we look to preview all things Silverstone in what will no doubt be a very enticing and exciting race weekend. A week off plus, with most teams being back, if not close to home, there's a bit of expectation that we'll again see some significant upgrades for a few teams. Can Ferrari find its mojo? Will Merck mark its official arrival for a consistent 22 moving forward? Will Red Bull keep flying?
Will Digby get an exclusive?
Well, yes, and will Digby, who, correct me if I'm wrong, mate, but you're going to be there
I'm
now.
going to be there.
God, lifestyle of the rich and famous, ladies and
So I
gents.
now get to go to Silverstone and Austria. I'll do my best to get some footage for everyone and do a little...
Do your best. It's a mandate. You have to.
I'll do some footage of my day at the race. I'm very excited. I love Silverstone, so I'm always excited to
Very jealous. Yeah. You're not playing there this year, though, are you? Because you have played there.
No,
yeah.
we're not.
Okay.
It's definitely not happening.
Okay. All right. Well, look, really exciting, both for you, mate, but also for F1 fans and alike. Who knows where things are going to be at the end of that race, but we're going to cover it all off next week. So many questions, so little answers, and, well, even less answers you'll get when you tune into us. But we'll chat everything in and around race week to prep you for another hectic weekend. As we sign off for today, please do remember, if you've had a giggle, learned something, generally just enjoyed the chat, please do rate us on the likes of Spotify and Apple. So 5 stars are better than 1. Positively review us with some lovely comments and share the pod with anyone you obnoxiously can. And by all means, as we said earlier, get in touch. Also, if you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials, TikTok, Insta and Twitter via Idiots of F1, and that's the number 1, not the word spelt out. Digby pounds out a heap of shit on that, and it's brilliant, and it's going gangbusters regularly. So jump in on that. Boys, thanks again for joining me.
Any idiots going to Silverstone, look out for a big tall redhead with a ponytail.
You cannot
I might be in
miss
the
him.
special area though, so you might not get access to me. But in
elitist.
Austria, I'll be in the GA area, and I'll hopefully be wearing my brand new Idiots of F1 t-shirt.
Who are you going to be with, Diggs?
I'll be with my mum.
Hey.
I love it. There you
My
go.
mum /
Yeah.
camera woman.
Yeah, if you ever needed any more reasons to love the bloke, he's going to the F1 with his mum, and that is fucking lovely. Brilliant. Well, mate, be kind to those that banished us convicts, and in the interim, everyone, have a great week wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
Bye.
And we will see you next time.
Play the music. Play the music.
Bye. Play the music.